right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you coming on short notice. Just sending out a notice this morning, but we have some big news we want to share. Historic news for the city of Sioux Falls. 18 months ago, we were doing a lot of press conferences every day, and that was during a time when we really didn't know what the future of our economy was going to look like. I think there was just a lot of uncertainty. What was unemployment going to look like? What were our sales tax revenues going to look like? Were people still going to want to invest in our community? And we're here today, really 18 months after the start of the pandemic, to say that Sioux Falls has weathered things incredibly well. In fact, if I can speak for myself, better than I could have ever imagined, to be totally honest. Today, just this morning, we surpassed $1 billion in building permits in the city of Sioux Falls. And that's historic in and of itself. It's also historic in that the level of growth that we've seen really in the past 2 years has been historic. In 2018, we had about $786 million in permits. So to be over $1 billion today, just a few years later, is quite a feat for the city of Sioux Falls. We talk a lot internally with our leadership team and with our planning team about how do we keep Sioux Falls investable. We use that term a lot, keep Sioux Falls investable. And what do we mean by that? Well, we mean the right policies, the right programs, the right incentives to make sure that businesses want to spend money here, that they want to build here, that people want to move here, and thus developers want to invest in housing and so forth. So what you're seeing is really the result of those, what we call investable policies that we've put into place over the last several years, very pro-business policies and policies that make Sioux Falls an attractive place for businesses to come and for people to move to as well. We also know that that growth does not come without challenges as well. That's some incredible growth. And with that comes challenges of housing, challenges of keeping up with the growth in infrastructure that's needed to support those permits, support those homeowners, support those businesses. And so we spend a lot of time focused on that side of it as well. And that's the balance that you find in an administration, in a department like Planning and Development Services, in our engineering departments, in our police departments, fire departments. How do we continue to make Sioux Falls thriving, growing and vibrant, but also sustaining a pace that we feel is manageable to keep up with the services that we need to manage and to balance that growth. So this work, however, doesn't happen by accident. It's credit of a lot of people in this organization. And when we talk about building permits and we talk about growth like that, we're here in front of this counter for a reason, because pretty much every permit will start with these folks behind me today. We have a lot of people who have to review permits. Then we have Public Works, who has to make sure we have the adequate infrastructure. We have zoning to make sure it's appropriate use for a location. Obviously, our plans examiners have to touch all of our permits. Our fire marshal team has to make sure that the building design meets life safety standards that we have for our codes. We then have inspectors, mechanical, building, plumbing, all have to make sure that standards are being met. And so I share that with you just because over the past 3 or 4 years, the people that I just listed, we have added maybe a handful of staff to all those departments to keep up with this growth. So the team here is dealing with a record level of growth with very minimal government addition, very minimal FTE addition. And that's just a testament to the efficiency that the team here has put into place. So today's an exciting day for Sioux Falls. The fact that it's November 22 and we've already surpassed $1 billion, we are taking some internal bets on where we're gonna end up for the end of the year. I won't tell you where I got us, but we're going to see even more growth through the end of this year. And so I want to thank one guy specifically who is in charge of leading a lot of these efforts. That is our Director of Planning and Development Services, Jeff Eckhoff. and I'd like to invite Jeff up to talk a little bit about some of the specific numbers that we've seen this year. Jeff, come on up. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Tenhaken. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. Today is certainly an historic day, as the mayor has mentioned, that we are now over the $1 billion mark, and the permit that put us over the top today was with the county administration building and their remodel and relocation of their commission room. It was a $1.7 million permit put us over the top today. As the mayor mentioned, it's a very complicated process. There's a lot of city staff, our colleagues that are here in this building, and also collaboration with the community, with architects, engineers, developers, builders, and the nearly 1,400 licensed contractors that we work with every day. So hats off to them, as well as our city team, for the cooperation and collaboration that we have. To give you some scale of the growth, right, we're over $1 billion. 2 years ago, Omaha crossed the $1 billion mark for the first time. Last year, they exceeded that. They did just $80 million over the $1 billion mark. So just to give you a scale, a community 4 times our size, and we're right up there with them. The permits kind of came from everywhere this year. We had about 55% of them came from big projects, commercial projects like Amazon, FedEx, Windchill. About 16% came from the medical field, 14% came from government, which would be our Public Safety Training Center, the Augustana dorm, and then a Cleveland Elementary, and then about 12% were in apartments. The mayor mentioned housing. Last year, we permitted 2,700 housing units, single family, townhome, duplexes, apartments. This year, we're already over 3,000 units. Talks to the demand, and our developers and our builders are working as quickly as they can. We understand that there's headwinds, there's supply chain, there's labor supply, and there's been some talk lately about the building permit process. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for approving an FTE. We have a new building or plans examiner that starts next Monday. They'll help take some of that load off, but there's a ramp up time to that. I think if you look at our peer cities, and make no mistake, our peer cities are now Omaha, Des Moines, Lincoln, Boise, places like that. I think you'll find our process very competitive from a time standpoint, and we meet or exceed what our peer cities are doing. Our economic climate remains vital and strong in this town. There's an old saying, we had an economic development, it pays to fish in deep waters. And I certainly think that this administration, I know this administration, this mayor, this council are committed to creating and providing a strong business climate for our businesses, whether they're on Phillips Avenue or Foundation Park. So thank you very much for coming today and sharing this historic time with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.